Well, welcome back, Josh. I think we should spend some time focusing on the NAT, on the negotiation assessment tool. I think this is really the foundation of understanding how to improve things. So you and I both know what happens when an organization says, we just need a training program.
Yeah, this is your classic prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Well, same is true in negotiation. It's like handing out aspirin when someone needs surgery. In medicine, you diagnose first. Very clear. Nobody pushes back on that. For some reason, in negotiation, people skip the step far too often. So in negotiation for us, from our approach, we use the negotiation assessment tool, the NAT, to do the same thing, to try and figure out where are you at from a capability standpoint and where do you need to go from here.
Yeah, and so that's our topic for today. How do you diagnose your current capability level before you start prescribing solutions?
So we need to talk about why diagnosis matters. In our book, we call that heavy reliance on training as the fallacy of training, where organizations assume that more skilled training will fix negotiation outcomes. If we just get everyone some good training, they're going to go back and we're going to magically do everything so much better. And intuitively, that feels right. The problem is it isn't right. It's not actually how we move capability along. So we need to think about moving organizations way beyond skill training in order to fix negotiation outcomes. And if the system itself is broken, if we don't have alignment, if we have bad incentives, if we don't have a repeatable process, well, all that training does is create more frustrated negotiators because now the expectation's been raised, but you haven't actually helped them get to a better place in their negotiations.
Of course, and how often have we heard from actually interested negotiators, people who want to get better, and they learn good negotiation skills and tools and look at us and say, yeah, but it won't work here. Why? Because they don't have the right incentives. There isn't alignment. They're not hearing about the strategy, direction, or values of the organization as important to negotiation. So that's exactly what happens. The negotiation assessment tool stops that cycle. It tells you exactly where you are on the 4-level negotiation capability model, and most importantly, what levers you need to pull next to improve.
Yeah, to be clear, we've taken decades of learning and experiences and evidence-based practice, and we've put them into a really structured assessment tool that gives you a foundation to do this. We'll talk about the concepts here and we'll give some scenarios. But if anyone wants to really apply this, the best step is to go to our book, take those tools that we put in place and apply them to their context. It's going to give you a really good read on what you need to do to improve from there.
Yeah, and the strategic negotiation book has a good middle of the road negotiation assessment tool in the book itself, so you can hands-on see what it looks like.
So let's talk about a few scenarios here to help bring this concept of the NAT to life with some hypotheticals. And again, the tool's looking at our 3 organizational capabilities, in particular, strategy, values, and direction, human capital and organizational investment, and incentives. And if we're thinking about strategy, values, and direction, let's imagine, for example, a university department negotiating broadcast rights, a place where there's a lot of pressure right now to bring in a lot more revenue. So one group may want to really maximize revenue, and another may want to maximize exposure. Those are different goals. And the athletic director is focused on student-athlete well-being. Well, if you don't have a shared definition of a best deal, it means that the negotiations can swing wildly depending on who's in the room at any given moment, or just go organically where they may end up, but they don't go there with a strategy in mind or a due north.
Yeah, so that's a key question, and the NAT addresses is, how clear and focused is the strategy, value, and direction. Second is human capital and organizational investment. Are we investing in our human capital? Are we putting the structures and frameworks in place that support an effective negotiation process? So think for a moment of a construction firm bidding on government contracts. And they've got a few skilled negotiators who have done this for a long time. But there's no mentoring, no preparation templates, no debrief process at the end to learn from. So when that skilled lead negotiator retires, outcomes collapse because all of that knowledge and all of that intuitive understanding, assuming for the moment that negotiator did it well, goes out the door with them. The negotiation assessment tool would show they're weak on organizational investment and that infrastructure.
Yeah, and like, picture incentives. With incentives, there's so many great examples of this. Let's use one from a custom home builder example. So you might have a custom home builder that really wants to become the go-to home builder for that family for the rest of their life. And if they think about their strategy, it's to build this deep relationship, really understand what they're trying to get out of a home at different phases of their life and be that go-to place. But the sales person may actually have a very different incentive. They may be incentivized just on that short-term sale and maximizing profit on that one deal, whereas a company wants to build a deeper relationship. Now you've got overly aggressive sales negotiation where someone's trying to upsell beyond what's actually good for the long-term health of the company. And in our NAT, you're going to unravel some of these conflicts, and you're going to start to figure out where are some of those tension points and come up with an incentive structure that's actively working with your strategy rather than against your strategy.
Yeah. So these aren't just categories. The negotiation assessment tool doesn't just flag categories. It actually places your organization on the 4 levels of capability maturity. So you get a much more nuanced picture.
Yeah, so again, just a refresh for those who haven't been with our model throughout. Level 1 here is ad hocery. So you can imagine a startup closing deals by charm and hustle. It works until it doesn't. Level 2 is repeatable competency. So say a mid-size NGO that creates a standard prep process. So every grant negotiation follows the same playbook, right? Level 3 is adaptive flexibility. Here you could think of a Fortune 500 supplier that tailors strategy depending on context. Now you've got distributive price fight one week and an integrative alliance the next, but it's with purpose, not ad hocery. From the outside looking in, they might look a little similar, but if you're inside, you start to see why it's based on learning metrics and other practices from the past. And then we have level 4, which is optimized performance. So like in some M&A cases where both sides co-design the process, try and figure out how are they going to set up for the most creative environment to create joint value. It's rare, but incredibly powerful. Gary, you've done a lot of this type of partnering work, and it has incredible impact and can be industry changing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So quick self-test. Obviously, there's a much deeper test if you want to dig into the checklist and go through there. But if you want to run a quick NAT self-test with 3 live questions, here's a couple quick hits that will get you pretty close. So on your last negotiation, ask yourself, did you explicitly define what best deal meant for your organization? Before you went into the table, did you put some significant thought into that? So think about that. Question 2, did you prepare using a standardized process, or was it improvised or simply something you've created by yourself? And question 3, after it ended, did you capture learnings into an institutional playbook that others could access and share and learn from?
Yeah. So if you answered no to more than one, frankly, even one of those, you're likely anchored at level 1 ad hocery. And if you said yes to all 3, congratulations, you're moving into level 2. And the negotiation assessment tool just gave you a much clearer roadmap as to where you are, and most importantly, why you're there.
Yeah, and look, the goal here is to take you from diagnosis to action, right? It's not just to learn something about yourself for yucks. You don't get a blood test at the doctor just because you're interested. You do it because you're trying to figure out if you need to make any changes or to reaffirm the things that are going well as well. So the key here, the NAT isn't about judgment, it's about direction. And once you know your level and you know specifically where areas you are strong in or not so strong in, you don't try to fix everything all at once.
Now, pick one area of capability. Say strategy alignment. Focus on that. Make sure strategy is crystal clear to your negotiating team. Why is it the strategy? That will help them make decisions in the negotiation itself. Or focus on investing in your people. look at training them in metrics, spending time with senior people in the organization to learn the history so they understand the background. Negotiation skills training, if they haven't been trained, or if it's been more of a learn by doing, give them more formalized training, but training with a purpose into the goals of the organization. Do a full assessment of your incentives. Just take a look at it and say, if I were in that role, what would my focus be? What am I incentivized to do? And then say, is that in the direction? Is it taking us in the right direction? Or are we working at odds from each other? So just pick one of those and improve it over the next quarter. Simple as that. And that's how organizations climb the ladder. And it's a good image to use. You're climbing a ladder. You're not jumping from the ground to the third floor on the roof in one step. It just doesn't work that way. The ladder is step by step. And if you do it that way, you're going to get to the top kind of sooner than you expect.
Yeah, great points, Gary. And look, don't forget, the NAT can be applied across industries, across organizational sizes. It really is a universal core set of best practices around negotiation that then extends to different organizations. You're going to then take some of those practices and make them very much specific to your organization or your industry. But the core practices and process for what makes you effective at negotiation has some universal characteristics here.
Yeah. So like you were saying, Josh, it kind of doesn't matter whether you're negotiating a labor contract where you literally have a forever relationship. There are a few things in life that go on forever, but labor contracts are probably the closest thing we have to it. They will go on forever. That's one context. A sponsorship deal might be more of a midterm kind of deal where you're negotiating a deal today and you're looking forward saying we would most likely love to renew this next time around. So it might be a 5 plus 5 year, 5 year plus 5 year deal. That's still a chunk of time. You may be in a very strictly transactional negotiation for a commodity, and that should focus you as a negotiator in a different direction. But unless you're making that assessment, and the NAT does that extremely well, then you're going to be bringing the wrong approach potentially to any given negotiation.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say, you and I are both runners, and if someone said, put you on a trail race, but didn't give you a map and just told you to run faster, you might run faster, but you might be going further from the finish line than when you started. So again, that whole idea of having your roadmap, having your prescription matters so greatly.
Yeah, now as they say, if you don't know where you're going, any direction will do. The problem is you're going to end up lost in all cases at the end of the day. So prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. The negotiation assessment tool is a tool for that diagnosis.
Yeah, so we encourage you to take the self-test. Even better if you can take the book, apply it in particular with the worksheets. They're going to help you a lot and figure out where are you right now? What one capability do you want to strengthen first? And then roll from there. Again, you're going to partner organizational capabilities with individual capabilities. And that's how you start moving from ad hocery toward real capability and try and figure out where and what level and how important is negotiation to the core success of your organization or your team.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. We again encourage you, do a little bit of homework, test it out. Don't take anything for granted, test it. Apply some of those simple steps and see what it does for your next negotiation and build on that.
Great, Gary. Thank you as always. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, take care.